Hello everybody and welcome back to another Doctor Who product review. In today's review I'm going to be continuing my look at the B&M exclusive 2020 Doctor Dalek 2-pack re-releases, the interim sets as they are also known. This time round I'm going to be taking a look at the War Doctor and Dalek Scientist from the Big Finish War Doctor audio adventures. Now once again, and much like the previous review in this series where I'd taken a look at the 7th Doctor and Axis Strike Dalek, this set does of course feature exactly the same figures as the previous release, however with a few upgraded paint applications. So the main purpose of this review, as opposed to looking at the figures in detail, I'm mainly going to be taking a look at the changes and deciding, are they worth buying, are they worth avoiding, is anything worth it in life by this point? I'll try and answer some of those things throughout this review. So as per usual, the recommended retail is $19.99 and it is of course available from B&M stores now. So firstly, taking a look at the packaging, this is exactly the same to the other release, so the sidebar with John Hurt at the corner, the title of the set and the character options and Big Finish logos at the very bottom. As per usual, a nice viewing window to view the products on the inside. On the side of the box we do have the cover art from A Thing of Guile with a rather nice look at the Dalek, and then of course at the back we have the usual style guide including a graphic of the TARDIS, the full cover art for the Big Finish story, and of course a write-up about the episode itself. The only major difference for this box compared to the previous one is that it does now in fact include the new variants of figures as opposed to the old ones. I think that rather unusually this set is in fact the set that a lot of people were hoping for in the first place, because there is a lot of nice upgrades within the paint apps that generally make both of these figures stand out ever so slightly more than the original versions that were released in B&M last year. However, as per usual, there's nothing really too major with these figures, using exactly the same sculpts as previous figures released, generally just with some upgraded paint apps. So moving straight into that comparison with the original version, we have a rather interesting change where naturally the biggest difference is the bluish tint that has been given to the bronze Dalek to make it look a lot more like the Dalek that we do see on the front cover of the box set. Both of the Dalek variations are interesting, and I think that this version looks a lot more like the one from the cover. However, this one just makes for a nice variation of bronze Dalek, so regardless of what one you have or decide to get, both of them are kind of nice in their own way. As for the War Doctor figure, I think that this is possibly one of the best upgrades for the War Doctor that we have seen in quite a long time, because although the repaint one that we did see previously is nice, it still has quite a lot of those similar details from the original release and the one released within the 13 Doctors set. However, one thing is certain, given that the War Doctor did only appear within one television story, really, character options are doing a very good job of milking this sculpt as much as possible, and I don't really blame them for it. So having a gander at some Dalek bumps, as per usual the fender of the Dalek is exactly the same to your other Daleks. It has been sculpted in a black plastic. Much like the Axis Strike Dalek, it would have been nice to have some paint apps on the little bolts on the fender, just to make them stand out ever so slightly more. As for the actual bronze colour, much like the original Dalek Scientist here, they've gone with a much lighter bronze colour compared to the likes of a standard bronze Dalek and the Axis Strike Dalek, just bringing that one in. As you can see, there is a much darker bronze on this version here. The same can be said for the latest 2020 Dalek Scientist. However, that said, it is still ever so slightly darker in its bronze paint apps. However, not too much. It certainly doesn't stand out that much. The main difference, of course, however, is that slight tinge that we've got on the hemispheres. This time round, they're kind of a blend between a bluey silver, almost like a very cold metal design, and there is, of course, also that ever so slight subtle wash over the top, which is also prominent on the original figure. Moving up to the midsection of the Dalek now, once again a continuation of that ever so slightly darker bronze on the main body of the Dalek, and the most noticeable focus of this part of the Dalek that has changed is a once again paint adjustment within the slats. Comparing to the original version here, they went with a very bronzy yellowy design, a little bit like in fact the original Axis Strike Dalek. It is very similar, just sliding that one in there. It's a very similar design, in fact I've never noticed that before. However, the latest version is in fact much more subtle. It blends into the body of the Dalek a lot more. It's almost toned down, like this Dalek is within a filter or something like that. And once again, the weathering does in fact continue around the side of the Dalek. You can see a bit more brush strokes around here, possibly a bit of a collection of dirt around the sides of the different slats as well, compared to this version, which does seem to be ever so slightly cleaner. To be quite honest, it is a very minimal change, and something of which that you don't really notice at first glance, and it's only sad collectors like myself that will probably notice things like this, but I suppose it's a okay adjustment. And then finally, the dome of the Dalek has once again been upgraded to have the same uniformity as the hemispheres on the lower half of the skirt. This time round, the 2020 variation of Dalek Scientist has that bluey tinge over the silver from the original version, and because of that, the silver one does seem to have a lot more dirt around the sides, as you can see, especially around the top there. It does seem to collect quite a lot. This version, it does have a wash over the top in a few areas, however it is much more subtle compared to that original design, probably because of the colour that has been used, making the dirt a little bit harder to spot. However, generally overall, the rest of the Dalek dome is exactly the same, with the clear plastic used on the ears, as well as of course the eye stalk and the blue pupil in the very middle. Moving on now to the War Doctor, this is almost a combination of all of the good things that have occurred on the previous figures, kind of blended into one, with the most noticeable difference of course being the brand new coloured waistcoat. Now from what I understand, the green waistcoat is screen accurate, however due to a lot of the scenes within the Day of the Doctor being quite dark, sometimes that green velvety kind of design comes off as a red velvety design, so they've gone with this. However, at the end of the day, it is a big finish audio drama. Could have wore a red waistcoat at some point, he could have even wore a top hat. We will never know, because that is the joys of audio. So this figure, I'm in fact going to bring on the original War Doctor from the 50th anniversary, or as it was called at the time, I do believe the other Doctor when it was originally released. We do have a rather similar weathering design on the jacket here, replicated on this figure, being much more toned down. However, it uses the same colour shades kind of this B&M 2019 variation. Taking a closer look at some of the paint application changes, just to clarify, original version of the War Doctor, latest 2020 version, 2019 version. This time round we've seen a return to a darker colour scheme on the gaiter that reflects slightly more of the 50th anniversary original War Doctor, however with a wash applied over the top that is a very similar colour to the B&M 2019 version, so it is a combination between the two. This time round the buttons don't stand out as much as on the original versions, they have a much darker wash applied over the top, and as for the shoes themselves, they seem to be just as dark as the B&M 2019 version. As for the legs, once more, these do seem to be a little bit of a mix between the two. Some of the slightly lighter colours seen on the original 50th anniversary version, and the similar wash compared to the 2019 B&M version, blended together to create this kind of midpoint, ever so slightly dark design. The most noticeable difference on the War Doctor is the change in paint application on the waistcoat. I really do love this new red design, it's almost a burnt red. We still do have the same highlights that have appeared on all of the War Doctor figures, including of course the silver highlight on the buttons and the dangling chain at the midpoint, along with the sash running through the middle. Much like the B&M 2019 release, we also see an absence of the neckerchief scarf that was seen on the original version. It would have been nice to possibly see the return of the scarf for this release, just to give the figure a more complete look, possibly with an upgraded paint app to be ever so slightly darker, just to once again add a bit more variation. However, you can of course change that across from the original version if you so wish. Other than that though, I do really like the red design, and as I say, it goes well with the costume. As with all previous War Doctor figures, this figure does also contain a brilliant likeness to the late John Hurt, some great details on this, including wrinkles around the face to replicate ageing, and a nice highlight that has been applied to the moustache, beard, and of course the eyebrows. They've gone with a rather similar paint application compared to the previous B&M War Doctor, where they've gone with a rather light coloured design, certainly a lighter white highlight that has been applied over the top. To be honest, there's really not that much in it. I think there might be an ever so slight change. However, for the most part, all of them look brilliant together. And just for a final comparison, bringing on the original version with that much darker paint app, as you can see, they tend to have gone with a much more plain design. However, this one looks a bit more of a shocking white colour. So it just depends, personal preference of what one that you like more. However, compared to the previous B&M release, there's not much in it. So in conclusion, for the War Doctor and Dalek Scientist 2020 variation, I think that this is an okay set. I'm certainly not singing its praises high as the 7th Doctor and Axis Strike Dalek, because I felt like that set was by far a worthy variant. The 7th Doctor was great, and the Dalek was a welcome improvement as well, with a few additional weathering designs in there. This one is okay. I do love the blue tinge that has been added over the silver, and it makes it look more accurate to the cover art. However, it's not as exciting as the other ones in my personal opinion. I think that this set could have very easily not existed, or at least this one could have not existed. I feel like, as I mentioned at the start of this video, this set feels like the set that we should have got in the first place to make the original one a bit more exciting. So for those collectors out there, no doubt you will be buying this one anyway, because at the end of the day, Dalek's a Dalek and a variant is a variant, and if anything, Doctor Who fans are used to buying multiple of different products by this point. However, for those occasional collectors, this one could be worth the miss. Although, if you like the look of it, then by all means buy it. I think that by far the inclusion of the red waistcoat on the War Doctor is something definitely worth considering if you want a decent War Doctor figure, and the Dalek is also quite nice, I suppose. However, it's not an essential purchase. So thank you for watching this review of the Doctor Who B&M exclusive 2020, the War Doctor and Dalek Scientist interim variation set. I hope you have enjoyed it. At the end of the day, this product is for the people who missed out on the original one, or simply for collectors that want another variation of two rather brilliant figures. Do of course stay tuned on the Host Productions for brand new Doctor Who content each and every week, as well as more B&M exclusive collector set reviews coming in the future. So thanks once again for watching, and I shall see you all next time. Bye for now.